These kids were just having the best time of their lives. Nobody could have imagined what was about to happen.
4 University of Idaho students were found murdered in their off-campus residence.
Okay, let's dive in. We're looking at source material covering just an incredibly tragic event, the murder of 4 University of Idaho students found in their off-campus house. Kids who were, as the material says, just having the best time of their lives.
Yeah, and the sources really capture that immediate.
The attack was targeted with a, quote, edged weapon.
I set foot in the house and immediately Hunter was like, get out, somebody call 911.
The question everybody wants answered is why?
Just sheer shock, disbelief. You know,
Wow.
You see these phrases like, this can't be true. It really reflects how people felt their sense of safety was just shattered.
Right.
The source mentions, this is Idaho. Your kid's supposed to be safe going off to college. That kind of sentiment.
Exactly. And it recounts that awful moment of discovery, too. Someone walking in and the immediate reaction, get out, somebody call 911. Just chaos.
And the first details emerging, according to the material, were pretty stark. The attack was called targeted, and it involved an edged weapon.
Yeah.
Those early descriptions, the source points out, were really significant in how people first tried to grasp what happened.
So the question that just seemed to hang over everything, the one the source material really emphasizes, was this.
Why these 4 kids?
This can't be true. I mean, this is Idaho. Your kid's supposed to be safe, going off to college, have a good time.
We were a big group of friends. Why would you target those 4? There's a big realization that we had been stalked for so many months and had no clue.
People were panicking. People were really fearful.
There's this person out there who had just murdered our brother, and he's still out there somewhere.
This desperate why. Why these 4 kids? You know, there was this deep confusion about why them specifically.
And that why, that lack of an immediate answer, it really fueled a pretty intense climate of fear. The sources make that very clear.
Yeah, looking at this material, you really get a sense of that raw period. And moving into the aftermath, the source definitely paints a picture of fear spreading, people described as panicking, just living with that awful uncertainty, knowing someone was still out there.
And a key point the material brings up is how the lack of clear information early on from authorities, well, it meant that rumors and speculation just started to fill the silence.
Right. Nature abhors a vacuum.
Exactly. People felt adrift, trying desperately to piece things together themselves.
And this is where, according to the source material, it gets really complex and, frankly, quite harrowing. The impact on the survivors. One perspective shared is just chilling, this big realization that we had been stalked for so many months and had no clue.
And what's really striking in the material is how that trauma then got amplified by this intense public spotlight. The source talks vividly about the survivors feeling hunted all over again, but this time, you know, by the internet.
Oh, yeah.
It specifically mentions Dylan and Bethany getting blamed, completely slandered on the internet.
Moscow police put out very little information.
Rumors and speculation just started to fill the silence. How could they not tell us what's going on?
Dylan and Bethany were getting blamed.
Completely slandered on the internet.
People were thinking that we were murderers.
We're getting death threats. People always suspect the boyfriend.
Somebody had sent a photo of my house. Now people know my address and saying I have something to do with it.
People suggesting they were involved somehow.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and the source highlights how bad it got, talking about death threats, even their homes being publicized. One survivor is quoted saying, somebody had sent a photo of my house, now people know my address. Just terrifying.
That whole part of the story, as the source presents it, it really drives home how difficult it must have been navigating this horror, but under this cloud of public suspicion. It sort of connects to that general point the material makes, that people always suspect the boyfriend or someone close in these situations.
Absolutely. And that whole intense atmosphere, the fear, the speculation, the online attacks, it only really started to change with what the source describes as a key turning point.
Which was that phone call, right?
That specific call.
Yeah. I got a phone call from the officer and he said, "We have a suspect in custody." The material describes the reaction, the physical relief, the shock. The recipient's heartbeat go crazy fast. You can almost feel it.
But then there's that personal connection that came out later. As recounted in the source material, it adds this. well, this almost unbelievable layer. Hearing a survivor's reaction, just those few words.
I got a phone call from the officer, and he said that we have a suspect in custody.
I just felt my heartbeat go crazy fast. I know that guy.
My mom said, "It's over." And I said, "No, Mom, it's just the beginning."
I know that guy.
Chilling. So reflecting on everything from this source material, what does it all mean? The material closes with this really poignant exchange about what comes next. There's one perspective offered, kind of a feeling of closure maybe. My mom said, "It's over."
Mm-hmm. But the response that follows immediately in the source is just so raw. And I said, "No, Mom, it's just the beginning."
And that specific thought, pulled directly from the source material, is where we'll leave you. Despite an arrest, the story, at least from the perspective shared here, wasn't seen as finished. So what does just the beginning mean in the context laid out by this source material? Something for you to consider.